ISIS uses social media savvy to attract thousands of Western recruits from London to Paris to Minneapolis. Young jihadists are leaving the comforts of the West to answer the call of ISIS.
What ISIS is selling now is an opportunity to build something, to build a new society. And that's very, very exciting for a lot of kids.
ISIS's use of horrific violence and its open efforts to conduct genocide against Christians and other religious minorities have made it a fearsome force in the Middle East, and it has larger aims. In his new book, ISIS Exposed: Beheading Slavery and the Hellish Reality of Radical Islam, Eric Stakelbeck describes how ISIS is calling on its legions of followers in the West to rise up and conduct attacks right here and turn the United States and Europe into a war zone.
Well, Eric's here with us right now. His new book, today, we have the chance of inaugurating ISIS Exposed by Eric Stakelbeck, Beheading, Slavery, and the Hellish Reality of Radical Islam. Eric, good to see you again.
Pat, great to be with you.
They went to Belgium, they've gone to France, they've gone to Great Britain. Are they coming here?
Pat, not only are they coming here, they are here.
All right.
The FBI director last month made a really stunning statement, Pat, and he said, right now, in all 50 U.S. states, we have active investigations, ISIS-related investigations. Even in Hawaii and Alaska, we have ISIS-related activity. So they are here. That's number one.
Which state is the preeminent recruiter?
Pat, a state that we've talked about here often on the club, Minnesota.
Yeah.
In the book, I call it the Islamic State of Minnesota. Kind of tongue-in-cheek, but kind of not, really, Pat. We've seen dozens of residents of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, leave their comfortable suburban homes in the frozen tundra of the upper Midwest over the past 8 years and make their way overseas to join terror
why
groups.
Minnesota?
Well, it's interesting, Pat. Minnesota, a lot of people might not know this. Minnesota has the largest Somali Muslim population in all of North America. Some 100,000 Somali Muslims live in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, of all places. And many times, Pat, they are falling prey to these jihadist recruiters. I detail in the book how these recruiters work in the mosques, they work in the local Somali communities, and they promise these kids, 18, 19, 20 years old, they promise them that they will be at the vanguard of really a new kingdom, a new Islamic civilization that they will lead. They'll be the holy warriors and they'll have great glory. And for these young people, in many cases, Pat, that's an appealing message.
You know, Christianity has clearly the answer to that, but we're not teaching the kids Christianity, are we?
Look, I think one of the biggest problems here, Pat, is the collapse in the West, particularly in Europe, of Judeo-Christian Western values and a degrading of a great civilization that is based on the principles of the Bible and the principles of Jesus Christ. Now, in Europe, they seem to think that they can get along now without the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in their lives. Here in the U.S., we're also heading down a slippery slope. And Pat, I talk about in the book my fear, my concern, I should say, of how we are following the European model, and that's mass Muslim immigration. That's a real growth in mosque building from coast to coast. And the worst thing is politically correct leadership that we have right now.
We have forsaken our founding principles. We won't stand up for them. You know, it's interesting that they've got a Sharia court now in Texas. You think, what is wrong with Texas?
Of all places, right? Texas, the reddest of red states, right? This is America. But look, you have a Sharia court in Texas. We saw one in New Jersey, Pat. And there's really two tracks to this global jihadist threat we're facing. Number one, you obviously have the ISIS threat, the violent jihadists. We know what they want. Then you have kind of the subtle, stealthy jihad where they're getting jobs in the media, the government, academia. They're starting Sharia courts. They wear suits and ties, very reasonable fellows, they seem like. But they are just as dangerous, in my view, Pat, because at the end of the day, the tactics may differ between, say, ISIS and the Muslim Brotherhood, but at the end of the day, the end game is the same. That caliphate and Sharia law for one and all, whether we like it or not.
How are we going to counter that?
Pat, I think in the grand scheme of things with ISIS and this caliphate in Iraq and Syria, they need to be decisively crushed. I think what we did in World War II with the German war machine, the Japanese war machine, We crushed them. We demoralized them. Their ideology was proven bankrupt. They were defeated, soundly defeated. We need to do that with ISIS right now.
We've got a president, though, refusing even to say they're Islamic.
He's not going to do it, Pat. Nothing will change. I hate to break it to everyone at home, but nothing's going to change before 2016 with President Obama in office. He won't even say they're Islamic. And, Pat, the ironic thing about it is the only world leader who sees the gathering storm, kind of like a modern-day Churchill, in my view, is Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister. Yet President Obama is shunning him and basically painting him as an alarmist. People did the same thing in the late 1930s, early 1940s with Winston Churchill.
Absolutely.
So we're seeing that again with Netanyahu. We don't have strong leadership, and because we don't, Pat, I paint a pretty dire picture in the book about my outlook over the next few years.
Eric, actually, the Muslim Brotherhood, they have introduced them into the White House, and they've come in for major policy meetings and lunches and dinners and so forth. What's the story?
Absolutely, Pat. I think we've detailed it here in the 700 Club more than any program in America. We've really gotten in detail on the Muslim Brotherhood infiltration of this administration. And basically, we have Muslim Brotherhood-connected individuals who are advising this president on his counterterrorism policy. This is the epitome of the fox guarding the henhouse. You have people who want the same thing as ISIS. That's the key point, Pat. Maybe they're not going around beheading people yet, but at the end of the day, they want the same thing as ISIS. And what do they want, Pat? In the book, I detail Al-Qaeda's 20-year plan. This is stunning. In the year 2000, Al-Qaeda put together a document saying this is our outlook for the next 20 years, ending in 2020. It's a 7-phased plan, Pat. Right now, we're in the 5th phase. Al-Qaeda said between 2012 and 2016, they wanted to establish a caliphate. Well, they did exactly that last year. Now, the next phase, 2016 to 2020, is total confrontation. That's what we're getting towards. What ISIS wants to do, Pat, is to turn America, Europe into a guerrilla war zone, basically, where you have a Boston bombing type attack, a Paris, a Fort Hood type attack on a regular basis. That is the goal, and I fear that we're approaching it.
You know, if we had listened in the West to Mein Kampf, Hitler laid out exactly what his plans were, but we ignored him. So this is an outline. They're working against the plan, and we're ignoring it.
Pat, it's all right there. They have laid out their plan. This is what we're planning to do, and they're on their way. They're winning. They are winning this global war that we're in right now.
Well, folks, this is a book you want to read. It just was released. You can get it through Amazon. You can get it through CBN. It's called ISIS Exposed. Eric Stackelbook's new book that'll tell you the inside word. You need to have it to be informed. Eric, God bless you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.